All right, so welcome everyone. Today's webinar is an introduction to the Project Outcome Toolkit for both public and academic libraries. And with that, I want to take a moment to introduce our presenters. My name is Gina Parsons Diamond. I am the Program Manager for Data and Research with ACRL, the Association of College and Research Libraries. I'm joined today by Katina Jones, who is the Program Manager for Evaluation and Assessment at PLA, the Public Library Association, and we both manage the Project Outcome Toolkits. Additionally, we're joined by our colleagues Mahogany Meeks and Brian Lim, who will be monitoring the chat and helping us out behind the scenes. So today's free webinar focuses on Project Outcome, a free toolkit designed to help libraries understand and share the impact of essential library services and programs. It provides simple surveys and an easy-to-use process for measuring and analyzing outcomes. Project Outcome also provides libraries with resources and training support to help you apply your results and advocate for your library's future. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do that now. It's quick, easy, and free. And the toolkits are available to all public and academic libraries worldwide, and you do not need to be an ALA, PLA, or ACRL member to use the toolkits. And my colleague Mahogany has popped the links to the toolkits in the chat, so you can go ahead and sign up. Today's webinar focuses primarily on outcome measurement and why it matters for your library. We'll walk you through using the Project Outcome Toolkit, and in addition, we'll share a few case studies as examples of how other libraries are using the Project Outcome Toolkit for improvements in advocacy. But we're going to go ahead and get started with a couple quick definitions. Capturing the impact and value of your library's work is important to be able to tell stakeholders why it matters. For that story to be powerful, it's helpful for libraries to have strong data and evidence. However, assessment or evaluation can be easier said than done. It presents a number of challenges, particularly because each library and community has its own needs, and usually there's limited time and resources to devote to data collection and analysis. Project Outcome is designed to lower the barriers to this work, and we'll be sharing a few tips for strategic measurement later in this session today. There are many ways you can capture impact, and you may already be doing some of these. Outcomes are just one piece of the puzzle. Different types of impact measurement help you answer different questions that you may be asking. So needs assessment can help you answer the question, what does our community need? Patron satisfaction surveys can help answer the question, what should we do better? Outputs can help answer the question, how much did we do? And outcomes, what we're going to be discussing today, can help answer the question, what good did we do? Adding this outcome data to your impact story can help drive decision-making and strategic planning. And this is where Project Outcome comes in. So the definition of outcomes we use for the purposes of Project Outcome is, outcomes are specific benefits from library programs or services that can be quantitative or qualitative and are expressed as changes individuals perceive in themselves. So outcomes help answer the question, what good did we do? Or put another way, outcomes describe how learners are changed as a result of our efforts. Outcomes are not focused on recording library offerings or library usage, such as collection counts, gate counts, number of reference transactions, etc., but rather on documenting how the library impacts learning and the work of its users. They should be meaningful, achievable, observable, and actionable. With any data you collect, it's important to think about why you're collecting it and what it can help you achieve. Evidence from libraries shows that project outcome helps them make programming decisions, engage in advocacy, secure funding, report on the use of grant funds and help them apply for more, do strategic planning, and build meaningful partnerships. So project outcome is designed to help you overcome these common assessment barriers and engage more effectively in outcome measurement. It gives you a consistent and convenient way to measure outcomes and data that you can use to advocate for your library. The project outcome model offers these advantages. The toolkit is built around a set of quick and simple surveys. You can use them straight out of the box or choose to add custom questions. We also provide an easy-to-use survey management portal to collect and enter your survey data. And once you've collected your responses, you can access the ready-made reports that the system generates for you, as well as customizable data reports that you can create yourself. You can explore your data in a suite of interactive data dashboards with benchmarks, allowing you to see how they're doing compared to your peers. We also provide all the resources and training materials that have been created to help libraries engage in the outcome measurement process. And we can keep adding more. Just let us know if there's something you think you is missing. Finally, we offer a peer discussion board where you can ask questions and share examples of what's worked or hasn't worked at your library. The combination of ready-to-go surveys and easy-to-use tools really help library staff save time and energy in planning their data collection, which leaves more time for decision-making and advocacy once the results are in. Today's session provides a brief overview of these features, and there are many resources and tutorials available where you can learn more. And I just want to take another moment to reiterate that all the surveys, tools, and resources available in Project Outcome are free for academic and public libraries and LIS students everywhere. Project Outcome's simple standard surveys were developed by and for the library field. Since public and academic libraries offer different types of programs and services, the survey topics available to you differ based on your library type. And of course, how your individual library uses them will differ as well. Public libraries have 8 survey topics available to them: digital learning, early childhood literacy, health, summer reading, economic development, job skills, civic or community engagement, and education and lifelong learning. Academic libraries have 7 survey topics available to them: instruction, research, events programs, teaching support, library technology, digital and special collections, and space. Each survey topic comes in 2 types, immediate and follow-up. Before you decide which survey you'll use, be sure to look at the actual survey questions to see which ones will give you the type of data you need. You can preview all the survey questions in the resources. The project outcome surveys are designed to capture 4 key outcomes: knowledge, confidence, application or behavior change, and awareness. Each survey also contains 2 open-ended questions that help you get the most out of your patrons' feedback. What did they like most about the program? And what can the library do to improve? These open-ended questions are invaluable to libraries. This is where you can gain the most insight into how to help your patrons and gather qualitative evidence to demonstrate value in your community. One thing we see repeatedly is library patrons asking for more hotspots for checkout, more study spaces, more puppets during story time. Getting repeated comments like this can help you make the case for additional time or resources you may need. And the quantitative results can help support your case by showing that what you're already doing at your library is making a difference. So in practice, this is what a project outcomes survey looks like. This is the Education and Lifelong Learning survey from the Public Libraries Toolkit. And it's the most generic of the surveys, so it can be used for a broad range of programs. The text in bold in those first 4 questions align with the outcome measures we just discussed. The first 4 quantitative questions use a Likert scale for responses, moving from strongly disagree to strongly agree. This is the standardized survey as available in the toolkit. You can also add up to 3 custom questions to a survey. It's important to remember that you also set the context for the survey when you administer it, so your patrons know what they're being surveyed about. All surveys are available in English, French, and Spanish. The academic library surveys are also available in Arabic. So a few planning considerations to think about before you field your survey. So to choose the right survey, be sure to keep your library's needs and goals in mind. Look at the library programs and services that relate to those goals and consider what you should survey. Maybe it's a program that you've been running for a while but never gotten around to getting any feedback on, or maybe you're trying something new and want to get a sense of how it's going. Review the survey questions to see which survey topic and type will get you the most useful data. If there's additional information you need, consider adding custom questions. You will also need to think about how you survey. If you're running virtual programs, you may want to use the online survey link. For in-person programs, you can share the survey directly by giving a paper copy to program participants or sharing the link at the end of a program. You can also share the survey indirectly, for example, by posting it on your library social media page or website and asking anyone who may have participated in the program to complete it. It's also important to consider how you frame the survey request in order to encourage participation. It can be helpful to emphasize the importance of feedback and emphasize that the survey is short. It's only 6 questions. As you make changes based on the feedback your library receives, you can also emphasize how those changes are the result of patron feedback, which can encourage future feedback. All right, I'm gonna pause for a second and see if we have any questions. It looks like Jennifer asked about getting an account going for a public library, and Katina has recommended that you email us, which is great. So as we pause for questions, I think this is also a good time for you to consider what programs or services you might evaluate at your library using Project Outcome. If you have anything you'd be willing to share in the chat about those programs, please do. Brenda asks, what have you used to survey non-users? So the project outcome is designed for a librarian to have an account and then create surveys to give to their patrons. So the people taking your surveys don't need a project outcome account. If you meant something else, please let me know.
And let me jump in, Gina. Brenda, I think that Project Outcome really is measuring people who are using library services. So it's not designed to do that community needs assessment. It really is designed to measure and evaluate and what good did the library do with this program you participated in or the service we provided. So hopefully that answers the question.
All right, so we've got a couple survey topics shared. Jeffrey Swoder says outcomes for our DEI offerings. Yes, that's great. Colleen says anything to do with teens, a hard demographic to cater to. There, okay. It looks like we've got a few more questions and then I'll move on. Kim asks, will there be more languages added for the surveys in the future? We do rely on volunteers to submit new translations for the project outcome surveys. If that's something you're interested in, please do email us. Fiona asks, I work for a regional library system that serves both public and academic libraries. Am I able to access the full account? So the public and academic versions of the toolkit are fully separate systems because we have those different survey topics. If there's nothing stopping you from creating 2 free accounts and using the public library side for your public libraries and the academic side for your academic libraries. Juliana asks, does it identify AI generated answers? That's not something we've had to deal with. I think our surveys are so short and specific that, if students are taking it after a one-shot or you're handing out a paper survey after a public library program, that there wouldn't be a lot of opportunity to get AI answers. Okay, I see a lot of good ideas about how you can use the surveys at your libraries. So you can keep those in mind as we talk about the actual nuts and bolts of the toolkit. So this is the account homepage you're going to see when you log in. Once you've created an account, you'll have full access to all of the tools and resources we've been discussing via this homepage. Any or all staff at your library can create your own accounts. Accounts from the same institution are linked, so you will be able to see all the survey activity associated with your libraries, including survey response data. And the survey data itself is tied to the library, not to the individual user, so you do not lose that data if staff leave. Here we're looking at the account management page. This is where you can see all the users affiliated with your institution. This is also where you can see and edit locations, for example, branch libraries. This matters for mapping functionality in the dashboards, and also if you want to set a program service location when you create a survey. You can set a location without an address, but even for online events, you may want the event associated with the specific library location or branch that's hosting it. And here we're looking at the survey management page. Here's where you can go to create and access all of your library surveys, as well as customize survey program information, including program name and date, track program attendance and survey response rates, enter survey responses, review your quick reports, and download raw data. I mean, obviously, a thing you'll want to do on this page is create new surveys. You can click the orange button at the top left to get started by creating a new survey. So you must first create a survey to access the paper survey and online links and to be able to enter your results back into the system. Each new survey you create will be based on one of those project outcome topic templates with the standardized questions that we've discussed. You aren't really creating the survey from scratch. You also will have those options for customization, including adding additional questions. The survey management tool will walk you through the process of creating a survey with a simple online form. So step 1 is choosing the survey topic and type. That's the screenshot we're looking at. And then step 2 is where you can enter your program name, date, and location. The program name you choose is important because this becomes a data filter later on. So for example, if you have multiple librarians conducting library orientation sessions, you may want an individual survey for each librarian, but then you'll want the program name to be library orientation so you can roll up all that data together. Step 3 is where you enter your survey name and where you have the option of adding custom intro and footer messages or a custom redirect link for when the survey is published. And step 4 is where you can add those custom questions I keep mentioning. Project Outcome has a pre-populated list of additional survey questions. Some are multiple choice and some are open-ended, or you can write your own. The downside of adding custom questions is they make the survey longer, which can decrease the response rate. And finally, you're ready to administer your survey. Again, you can administer your survey by printing the PDF or online. I just want to say that the online surveys are mobile friendly. And we know.
And again, when you are fielding your surveys, there are additional steps librarians can take to ensure all users understand and complete project outcome surveys. We have an excellent example on the left here from a public library's version of a survey. The library here has added emoticons and color coding to their paper survey to help patrons interpret the different responses on the Likert scale. Design adaptations like these can help low literacy patrons or English language learners to better understand why they're being surveyed. As mentioned earlier, you can also save time at the end of your program to read the survey questions aloud, walking through them with your participants one at a time. If you're only offering paper versions of your survey, you may wish to have large print versions available in at least 18-point sans serif font. Again, the online surveys are designed with accessibility in mind. And as a best practice, we always recommend trying to provide a path or point person for patrons to request accommodations. This could be captioning, sign language interpretation, or anything else your patrons might need during these library assessment conversations. Making sure your patrons know that there are accessibility options available is crucial to promoting inclusivity, and that allows all individuals to fully engage with the library.
All right. Sorry about that. I didn't realize the recording from a previous thing had shown up on that slide. But once a survey is created, you can make changes via the survey detail page. The changes you can make will be limited if you have already begun to collect responses. This page is where you can find links or online versions of the survey. You can click on the embed button to get a code that will allow you to embed the survey in another web page or LibGuide, or a QR code button that will generate a custom QR code for your survey if you want to include it on slides or table stands. And I just want to call out that you can enter the program attendance in the top right, so you can calculate that survey response page or survey response rate. So again, we have several ways of collecting and entering survey response data. The first is if you use the online survey via survey link, QR code, or embedding, the data will be automatically entered into the project outcome system. You don't have to do any additional work. If you do choose to use paper responses or collect paper surveys, we have several ways of getting those responses back into the system. The first is you can enter the responses one at a time yourself using the Enter Responses Online button at the bottom right. We also offer 2 bulk upload options. The first is a link that looks like a spreadsheet where you can enter multiple rows of responses. This URL can be shared with people who are not project outcome users, such as volunteers or student workers, and they will be able to enter the data without having access to the rest of the library's project outcome account. And finally, we offer a bulk upload Excel template where you just download the template, enter in your data, and then re-upload it. That template is unique to every survey you create. So I totally get that administering surveys and entering data can be a pain. What makes it worth it is what you're able to do with the results. In Project Outcome, your results are available in a variety of formats, making it easy to review, interpret, analyze, and share your results. The first format is the data dashboards, which show graphic visualizations of your aggregate survey data. All dashboards can be saved as screenshot images, printed as PDFs, or saved to the infographics library within Project Outcome, which allows you to add them to your custom reports. So we're going to talk about a few sections of the data dashboards now. The first is the overview dashboard. That's what you see on the top left here. This shows an aggregate average score across all survey types and across all outcomes. Each survey topic and outcome show comparisons of your library's average score in that category versus state and national average scores for public libraries and average scores for Carnegie class for academic libraries. Next up is the detail dashboard, which we're seeing on the bottom left here. This is where you can view data for each individual survey question organized by survey. The results can also be filtered, and those benchmarks are displayed here. The last image we're looking at is the matrix dashboard, and that's on the right. This allows you to explore your data looking for relationships and correlations, and can also be used to drive decision making and identify gaps in service or impact. The matrix diagram makes it possible to view aggregate average scores for each survey topic in connection with each outcome. The chord diagram that appears on the bottom, that's the circle below the matrix, allows you to see your score relationships in a different way. The thicker the chord, the stronger the relationship between that particular survey topic and outcome. We also offer a map and library info dashboard that you can explore in your account. Finally, we have the qualitative dashboard, which you can use to visualize your open-ended responses. So here you can visualize the most commonly used words from the open-ended responses. You'll see one word cloud per survey topic, and you can select a program to narrow down the results. You can click on a word to see its frequency and the other words that appear nearby. The word clouds can give you a sense of overall trends in the open-ended comments, but they're not a substitute for actually reading the comments or doing further analysis. You can export the open-ended responses to explore further, and you can save these visualizations to your saved infographics library, where you can download them or add them to your reports. So if the first way of looking at your project outcome data is the data dashboards, then the second way is the reports. So those dashboards were really designed for exploration. And these reports are easy to create to share your results with library staff, management, or other stakeholders. So there's two kinds of reports. The first is the summary report. The summary report captures results from a single survey and is designed for quick sharing with those staff, managers, or other stakeholders. It's very simple to pull. It's literally a one-click option from the survey management page. It's a Get Report button, and you just click it, and you get a beautiful report. If you want a little more detail, or you want to report with the data from multiple surveys, you'll want to build a custom report. And we offer a wizard for that in the data dashboards. It'll walk you through the steps of the process to create the report, getting all the information you need. And then it'll generate for you. So here's kind of a preview of what the reports look like. By default, each report will show a quantitative summary of the data you selected. And if you've selected multiple surveys, it will list the surveys. And again, you can customize these reports by adding additional pages with visualizations from the data dashboards, or custom text to really enhance your narrative. So again, as well as adding custom content to the reports, you can click on your saved infographics link to access a library of all your saved content. You can export these visualizations as an image, get HTML code where you can embed them on another website, or again, add them to your custom reports. And I just want to take a quick moment to say that your raw data is always available to you in Project Outcome. To access it, we're going to leave the Data Dashboards tool and go back to Survey Management. So if you want the results or the raw data from just one survey, you can get that on that surveys page. If you want to export the responses from multiple surveys, you're going to want to use the survey response viewer to set your fields and get exactly the data you need. The raw data comes out as a CSV file and includes the following fields: library name, location, program name, program date, survey topic, survey type, that's immediate or follow-up, survey name, response date, response type, and all qualitative and quantitative responses. This raw data is available as soon as data is in the system, so you'll want to be cautious about downloading it while you're still collecting responses. Before I pass it off to Katina to talk about the implementation phase and case studies, I'm going to pause for questions. I know Katina has addressed a few in the chat. Do you want to kick us off just so I don't miss anything?
Yes. So if you could go back to the screen where you show the locations and the users, there's a question that we can address there. Excuse me. And then Jessica asked about languages. So the on the public side, your language options, sorry, are English, Spanish, and French. They're automatically in there. And then on the academic side, it's also you could have the surveys in Arabic that are automatically available. Is that right, Gina?
Yes, that's correct. And I do want to say that you can field a single survey in multiple languages. So if you have a survey and it needs to be fielded in English and Spanish, that's totally fine. In the survey management page, there's a drop down for language to select. So if you want to survey people who speak multiple languages on one survey, that's totally doable.
And Gina mentioned earlier that we depend on volunteers. So if you have someone on staff that can translate into Russian, and we will take that translation, give you the credit for doing it. But that's how we are adding languages, is really, that's how the academic side has the Arabic, because they had someone who was able to translate it. So Gina, the reason why I had you come back here was for Amy's question about how do we manage staff connected to our library, removing someone who no longer works for us. Very easy. You'll see next to the person, I'm doing air quotes there because this is a test library, there is the option to, we're actually looking at the locations, but there's similar edit and remove options on the user side. So you're able to just go into your account, and because everyone at your library can see everyone that's connected, you can what you'll do is you'll click remove, an email will come to us for us to actually remove the person. And as Gina mentioned earlier, if they are no longer at your library, you don't lose the surveys that they collected because they're actually connected to your institution or to your library. And go ahead.
From Sharon, that's I think a little bit related to this. Sharon asks, is a draft survey always viewable by everyone? Yes, all the surveys you create will be viewable by other users from your institution. Your surveys are not available to all project outcome users, only the other users from your individual library.
And I think the last question from Jennifer about, thank you, Gina, about adding other questions. I think, and I'll probably, the easiest way to answer that question is you could have a longer survey that you issue to your users, right? If you have specific questions, and again, I think I mentioned earlier in the chat that we, of course, are encouraging people to have short surveys to gather this outcome data from your users quickly and in a way that's, tested and statistically sound. However, if you do need to ask more questions, you could have your survey separate right? To get those questions that are beyond the 9 that are available, you know, the 6 questions plus any additional 3 that you add. You could do that separately. And then for your reports, you could put in the data that match the questions, right? I feel like I'm sort of talking in a circle. Ultimately, what I'm saying is you aren't 100% beholden to using the toolkit to collect your data. But if you want to be able to have those comparisons and to be able to create those quick reports, put the responses to the questions that you gather that match the questions in the toolkit back into the toolkit. Does that make sense? Gina, help me out. I feel like I'm babbling there on that one.
So I have 2 things to say about adding additional questions. The first is if you do want to include outcome data on a longer survey, we have had schools copy and paste the project outcome survey questions exactly, don't change them, onto a longer survey fielded through Qualtrics or another survey management tool, and then simply ported the project outcome specific data back in. I also want to say, you know, earlier that I mentioned that project outcome data is just one piece of the puzzle. As you consider your assessment needs, you know, this might not end up being the tool for you. So take a look around, but you know, it's a free toolkit. We can't be everything to everyone. So if it doesn't work for you, we're not gonna be mad.
My feelings will be hurt, Gina. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Katina, and she's going to take us through some case studies.
All right. So, and Bob, I see your question, and hopefully what I'm about to share will help you with sort of understanding how other people have used the tool. So now that you've seen how the tool works, I want to share a couple of examples of what you can do with the data you collect. I'll be sharing 2 examples, one from a public library and one from an academic library, but the takeaways from each can apply to any type of library. So the first case study, excuse me, that we'll cover. Next slide, please, Gina. The first case study we'll cover is from an academic library. Nevada State College is a 4-year public institution founded in 2002. The campus is located on 500 acres in Henderson, Nevada. When this case study was created, Nevada State was the 2nd fastest growing public institution in the US, with enrollment approaching about 5,000 students. Their students are from a variety of diverse and underrepresented backgrounds, with nearly 50% first-generation college students, about 40% low income, and nearly 40% over the age of 25. The college library is unique in that it was the first entirely digital collection in the state of Nevada. Use of the library's space increased. Yeah, there you go. Use of the library space increased significantly after the move to the digital collection, but until using the Project Outcomes Space Survey, they had no way to measure the impact of this digital library on students. And so as a side note, let me reiterate that the Space Survey is a built-in part of the Academic Library Toolkit because it's designed to measure the outcomes of learning spaces that are unique to academic libraries and their students. We have heard that some public libraries have used the questions from the Space Survey outside of Project Outcome to measure the impact of their makerspaces or production labs. So those questions are available for you to utilize. But again, on the academic toolkit, the Space Survey is built in. If you're at a public library, have a makerspace, you could use those questions outside the toolkit to measure the outcomes related to your spaces. But back to the Nevada State College. So to measure the outcomes of Nevada State College's physical library space, the staff administered the survey to students who had booked study rooms via LibCal. Overall, results were positive, but the lowest score came in on awareness. That is, students were not making the connection to the other resources and services available from the library. One possible reason they decided for this was limited signage. Additionally, from the survey's open-ended comments, the library learned that many students were using the rooms for quiet individual study rather than for the group working space the library had originally designed and intended the rooms to be used. excuse me. So what you see on the screen here is the results summary from page 1 of the library space survey report. You can see the very positive results for each outcome measured. The survey did end up with only 14% response rate, or 22 responses. Nevertheless, this survey still produced actionable feedback. What do I mean by that? It's important to note that Nevada State College had conducted a correlational study prior to their implementation of Project Outcomes. So again, back to what Gina said early, outcome measurement is only one part of the way that you could evaluate your programs and services. On that correlational study, the library said those data were useful in advocating to college administrators about the value of the library space, but it was not actionable data. Data for the library, that they needed data for the library beyond we need more space. The correlational study didn't allow them to discover any ways they could improve the space to better meet students' needs. So they needed more space, but until they administered the Project Outcome Survey, were they able to gather and discover ways that they could improve the space. From the combination of the Project Outcome data and the data from the correlational study, which again had positive responses but didn't deliver results that were actionable, like the Project Outcome data, the library was able to incorporate the specific feedback they got from Project Outcome in order to ask for administrators that went beyond just more. So what did they decide to do? First off, they decided to improve signage. They introduced digital signage, a rotating slideshow on screens when they were not in use, to advertise library services. They placed table tents in the study rooms to promote events and resources. They updated their policy to allow single students to reserve the smaller study rooms for individual quiet study. They installed sound absorbing panels that resulted in a 30% reduction in noise based on decibel testing. They explored other ways to reduce noise overall. At the time of the case study, they were looking into other solutions such as changing the library's entryway from an open space to a glassed off entrance that could reduce noise from other areas of the building. And then for advocacy, the results were shared with Nevada State's student government organization and used to advocate with campus administration that more quiet study spaces were needed on campus. In the summer of 2019, a library-led renovation project was approved to convert a nearby classroom into a quiet study computer lab. So this is a nice case study because it shows how one survey with a relatively small number of responses led to demonstrated improvements within the library, giving the students exactly what they said they needed to be successful. Now I want to share with you the newest case study for public libraries. And both of these case studies are available within Project Outcome. There's a section in the resources that lists case studies. And so you've got this one, and then the one I talked about with Nevada State, and there are other case studies that are there. So again, lots of examples on how folks have used Project Outcome. But let's talk about Sarasota County Libraries. In the summer of 2020, to adapt to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, staff at Sarasota County Libraries in Florida, like many libraries across the country, sought new ways to safely connect with their community. A new initiative they tried was to supply take-home programming kits. Starting this new service offered a perfect opportunity for implementation of Project Outcome. The library wanted to know if the service was meeting the needs of users, right? So new service, they wanted to measure it. The staff chose to print the surveys, include them in the kits, and ask patrons to return them or submit responses online. Staff at the Sarasota County Libraries distributed over 1,000 grab-and-go kits with printed surveys included. Unfortunately, only 10 surveys were returned. Low response rates can be a common challenge with program assessment. Collecting responses can be particularly challenging without a captive audience. Distributing a survey to patrons in the room at the end of a program will most likely get you a higher response rate than giving patrons a survey to take home that they have to remember to bring back. However, despite the low response rate to their surveys, the library found the evaluation experience itself to be valuable, specifically that it helped them to clarify the intended outcomes of the service. So the exercise of creating a survey helped them to understand what outcomes they wanted from the service, right? So As I wrap up with these case studies, here's a bit of advice as you start surveying. Number one, give it time. Don't be discouraged if you have a slow start or don't immediately meet your intended surveying goals. And number two, remember that even a handful of responses can give you valuable insight into what your community needs. So hopefully that addressed some of the questions that I saw in the chat, but let's talk about the next steps. I'm going to finish with a few takeaways. Okay, why use Project Outcome? We know that short and simple surveys mean you get higher response rates. People don't like completing long surveys. There are times when long surveys are necessary, again, when you're trying to survey your community or that sort of thing. But for day-to-day evaluation, having a quick and easy way of gathering feedback is helpful. These surveys were created by and for the library field. They've been tested and validated, so you can have confidence in your results. The standardized surveys and outcome measures mean that you can track progress at your library, but also have benchmarks to compare how you're doing to other libraries. The ready-made reports and visualizations in the data dashboards do a lot of that hard work for you. They give you results that you can easily share with internal and external stakeholders. The reports and dashboards also provide an immediate snapshot of how your program went. This allows you to take that feedback and get started on improvements right away. The open-ended comments are really valuable. They can provide specifics of where patrons would appreciate support and stories of what they value that can support your advocacy and reporting. Overall, the project outcome tools are designed to be easy to use to reduce the burden of evaluation. You focus more on making an impact at your library and less on agonizing over survey questions and spreadsheets of results. Work at your own pace and your own comfort level. If you're new to outcome measurement, start small. See how it goes and learn from there. As you become more comfortable, there are many ways you can dig deeper and customize your surveys and reports, as we've shared. So if you're new to assessment or to project outcome, one place to start is this roadmap, which walks you through the steps to take. Now, while this roadmap presents a linear picture of the process, getting started, plan, create, administer surveys, enter and review data, then take action, I'd emphasize that it's actually an iterative process. With regular evaluation over time, you should and will repeat this process. But you might find that adding onboarding staff or planning for bias reduction become a part of the surveying process at your library in order to see the desired improvements in programs and service delivery. It's also important to keep the end goal in mind. The purpose of this work is to take action and make change. These might be actions you anticipated in advance, or they might be driven by the feedback you receive, as illustrated by the case studies we shared earlier. I know this seems like a lot, right? We've been talking to you for 49 minutes, right? However, the toolkit is really designed to be simple to use. I encourage you to just get in there and poke around. Project Outcome has numerous resources available to all users and covering all aspects of the outcome measurement process. Since we didn't have time to go through all the features of the toolkit in detail today, be sure to check out the tutorials as a reference. You can also preview all the survey questions to choose the best one for your needs. There are case studies I mentioned earlier where you can learn how other libraries have used project outcome results to take action, and many other resources that cover all aspects of the outcome measurement process. As you engage with the toolkit, remember that you can ask others how it works for their library on our peer discussion boards. These boards are now on ALA Connect and accessible to anyone with a Connect account. You do not have to be an ALA member to create an account. And Mahogany just dropped the links to the public community, it's a mouthful, and the ACRL Project Outcome community. She's dropped those in the chat, and you can access both of those from the main website. Both PLA and ACRL have recently issued usage reports for Project Outcome. There's an image for the public library report on the screen, but Mahogany is dropping the links to both of those reports in the chat. And in celebration of the 5th anniversary of Project Outcome for academic libraries, excuse me, Assessment and Advocacy Using Project Outcome for Academic Libraries shares case studies, demonstrating how a variety of libraries have used Project Outcome to make improvements in their practice, and highlights the value of the tool, the value the toolkit has brought to institutions and the academic library profession. Chapters in this book capture ways to use Project Outcome to make small changes, like the optimal arrangement of a library study room furniture, to sharing the data as evidence in advocating for institutional, state, or federal funding, all the way to using Project Outcome data in collaboration with data sets from other sources to provide greater insights into the contributions of academic libraries to student learning and success. The book, edited by our co-presenter, Gina, is expected to be available next month in September. So again, we've gotten you almost to the end, but feel free to drop in chat. What's come to mind about how you will start our outcome measurement at your library? And I'll let you sort of drop your things in there, and then Catherine, yes, the links that we're sharing will be available when we share the recording. And yes, Julie, the slides will be available. Amy, I like that idea. Starting a new service is the best time to sort of do outcome measurement to make sure that it's delivering the way that you would hope it delivers.
Oh, yes, and I see Alex says they want to use it to track grants with partner organizations. That's a great opportunity. And Melita says they'll use it to compare different types of story times. Excellent. And then if you use the same survey, the standard Project Outcome survey, you can get a really good one-to-one comparison. Apples to apples.
Yes.
Yes, and Colleen says it can be hard to see our impact. That's so true. But with these quick and easy surveys, you can get kind of that temperature check whenever you need it.
And if you have questions after the session, Mahogany has dropped the email. I think I mentioned the PLA one earlier. It's info@projectoutcome.org, and the ACRL email is acrl@projectoutcome.org. So we will, the four of us that you met today are the ones that man and woman the inboxes, person the inboxes. So we will definitely be able to answer any questions that you have. And as you exit the webinar, there is a survey that will come up for you, but we'll be here for a couple more minutes if there's any other questions. But thank you for being here today. On behalf of Gina and Brian and Mahogany, we appreciate you being here to learn more about Project Outcome.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I just missed it somewhere. Julie says that they had a survey with 470 responses and 345 comments. What an excellent survey response that is.
Lots of data. And hopefully lots of good insights. So thank you. Thank you all for sharing today.
Yes, thank you all for coming, and please don't hesitate to get in touch via email as you start to dig into the tool if you have any further questions. Tanya had a question about public libraries case studies, specifically one about strategic planning. Katina, do you know if you have any like that?
Yes. Yes. and I will, Tanya, if you send an email to info@projectoutcome.org, I'll send you the link to that strategic planning case study.
And then Patty asks, any ideas how to get higher participation? I will say, paper surveys still have a much higher participation rate than digital surveys. But if you do decide to use a digital survey, I would recommend using the QR code function. That way your patrons can just scan it on their phone and take the survey on their phone, since they are all mobile friendly. And Catherine echoed me in the chat, maybe place QR codes in different places throughout the building. Yes. Donna asks, how often are the survey topics updated or new ones added? So that is determined by our volunteer oversight boards. Both toolkits have a committee of volunteers that oversee the strategic direction of the toolkits, and they are the ones who review the questions and the topics to see if anything new needs to be added. So it's really on an as needed basis.
So Donna, if you have ideas, send us an email and let us know. We were working on a technology topic for the public side that's very similar to the one being used on the academic side. So that's coming in the future on the public side. So, but thank you for that question. All right, do we got any other ones?
I think that is it. So I will say thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And again, don't hesitate to reach out in the future if you have questions or comments. We hope you can dive into the toolkit.